Render price is absolutely booming. As we kind of expected, the AI narrative is huge in crypto. It's one of the 6 big narratives this bull market, and it's not disappointing. It is doing very, very well. But in this video, I'm going to be discussing whether there is cause for concern with the huge price increases, whether Render justifies its price, and what I expect the outlook to be and the price target for the bull market at the end, and what I see the future of Render being, so you can decide how long you want to stay in Render and what your kind of outlook is. Because if you're really passionate about the project, you might want to be in the long term, and we'll discuss why that is a good or bad idea and what you're just sort of looking to be getting out. But if you do like the content guides, please like and subscribe. It really, really helps, and I hope I can deliver knowledge that you won't find anywhere else. Clear, concise stuff about the data, so you can just stop making those huge FOMO decisions and actually make some knowledge-based decisions when buying or selling crypto. But let's get into it. So the AI narrative is huge, right? We've just seen the release of Sora in the last day, which is pretty cool. Taking a look at this video.
Or here's a sweeping opening shot to an old school Hollywood web.
I mean, for starters, this isn't 360p for some reason.
New technology announced by the Microsoft-funded company OpenAI. And just the latest way AI could rattle the world. It's called Sora. The company says the videos it's released are generated with a text prompt, like "Holy Mammoth."
So this is crazy, right? We've just seen the release of Sora, and this can basically create videos from text prompts, but the only thing you can expect is this is going to require insane amount of compute power. You think just creating some text is very, very low data, it's a few kilobytes. When you're creating videos that are hundreds of megabytes, and obviously you're putting in this prompt and it's spitting out that, it's taking insane processing power to render these photos. And obviously the name of the crypto we're talking about is Render. So the problem with the current AI boom is that we can't keep up with hardware. Software always develops faster than hardware. So we're currently facing a shortage, as you know, where Render comes in. Render is essentially where you can buy GPU power online in the cloud. Essentially what we've seen the same happen with data. Most people keep their data in the cloud now. Most of my stuff is on like Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Drive. All my photos are in the iCloud. And back in the past, you used to just have like a weird thing where maybe you'd have like a cloud drive or a separate external drive so you wouldn't lose these files. And now obviously that is all on the cloud, and it's just made our lives infinitely easier and scalable because you can just have unlimited space just by upping your subscription. And obviously Render is going to follow this same narrative, and that's why it has a very big use case in the world, really, not just in crypto. There is a huge narrative behind this, and it's absolutely booming faster than we can actually ever imagine. It's essentially just compounding in data and advancements. Now we're seeing technology double every year, which probably would have taken 5 years before. I have seen some stats on this, but I don't know the exact, but everything's speeding up, and all we need is compute power, and this truly is where Render shines, as you know, and that is the true narrative for Render. Obviously we've got that GPU power online, and it is growing. I've actually had a look at the revenues. We can see here that it released in 2013 with 0 revenue. Obviously we've not really seen any AI developments up until, I'd say, a couple of years ago. GPT was out for a few years before, but it didn't really have a great use case before 3.5. I don't know if any of you used it. 3 was kind of shitty. It would just produce like 400 character prompts, and you couldn't really do much with that, right? Like I tried to write like blog articles with it, but it wasn't very concise. But 3.5 really changed the game, and now we're seeing videos created with that. We're seeing deep fake AIs and everything of the sort. So it's developing rapidly. We can actually see from there, from 2019, it went up from 180k revenue to 742k. And whilst that actually seems very small in terms of numbers, obviously compared to its market cap, etc., all the size of AI, you got to think that Render's got to take on people as nodes, so it's got to sign people up to that platform, as well as getting people to use that platform and acknowledge this. And adoption does take time. As we've seen in the AI, it's mostly being concentrated in the hands of a few companies, the ones with a lot of money that can afford these chips. But as people start to realize and start to play around with coding AI, they're going to look for cheaper options of GPU power, and that is obviously where Render comes in. And actually, if you take a look at what a high growth company means, then Render actually qualifies for that. So it's actually had a 62% year-on-year growth, and the definition of a hyper growth company is an annual compounded growth rate of 40% or more. So Render actually qualifies for that, and as a crypto project, that's very interesting, because in crypto there's a lot of projects that are a load of faff and hype, and before this bull market a lot of crypto was just kind of a load of shit. There was just like a lot of fluff. NFTs were like the main thing, but now we're actually seeing some real projects come out of crypto that have real world use cases, and Render truly is one of those. So what does it mean by hypergrowth company? And the hypergrowth companies actually have a much higher PE ratio if you talk about stock. So that's price to earnings. That essentially means that the market cap of the stock divided by the earnings can generally be much higher because they are growing rapidly. So people are predicting future growth in the company, as opposed to just a slow growing company, something like a big market cap, like, I don't know, Costco, which would have a much lower PE ratio because they're not growing that rapidly. The growth is kind of predictable and the market is not particularly growing. They've kind of taken everything that they can get, whereas Render is really just starting out in this space. But if we just take a look at the numbers, so we're going to see that Ethereum has, say, 336 billion market cap and an annualized fees of 3 billion, which is actually down 25%. Which is interesting considering that obviously now we're in the bull market. I guess maybe there is some projects that were doing a lot better. So Ethereum has a 336 billion market cap and a 3 billion of annualized fees, which would give it a 100 PE ratio. I would say normally for stocks, a good PE ratio would be 10 to 15. When we were in the bull market of the 2020 era, we were seeing generals of around 40, which obviously after that ended, the stock market rally, we saw those drop down to 10 and 15. And the real push was for companies that were actually generating profit, who were actually doing something real. And then companies got valued for what they were after the drop. So essentially the PE ratios dropped to around 10 and 15 again. So the ones who were hyperinflated by FOMO and narrative were the ones that got hit the hardest. So that's just something to keep in mind. But so we see Ethereum has a 100 PE ratio. If we take a look at Render, we have a market cap of 2.8 billion, but realistically, we can't be looking at there because 2023 was the last revenue data that we have. So if we take a look at 2023 for the market cap for Render, I would generally say around middle of the year, we'll take the absolute peak because they didn't actually release this data till 2024 because they wouldn't have had the complete picture. So we could say 1 billion to 1 billion divided by 780k, I think it was, we get a P ratio of 1,282, which is really high. But generally speaking, if we compare this to Nvidia has a market cap of 1.8 trillion and a P ratio of 95 currently, which is abnormally high for stocks. You won't really see any with a P ratio like that. And a lot of this has been driven off the AI narrative. So there is a lot of upside. I definitely think obviously AI is going to absolutely boom, and I think Render is getting that price increases off the back of Nvidia. There is always a lot of hype. People just generally buy the hype. People are buying the news right now. Whereas if you even look at the .com bubble, when the internet was like a big shiny thing and everyone thought the internet was going to be amazing, everyone was just buying these internet companies that weren't doing much, but were just highly overvalued. Something like Amazon even took a massive hit, like Yahoo, and the ones that came out at the end were actually the ones doing real things. But obviously if you're earning the stock and you're still at the top, you're still gonna get burned. So regardless, we're gonna see Render grow throughout the bull market because it is just the market cycle. Render is gonna grow and we're gonna see it keep growing along the side of Nvidia. So if you start to see Nvidia drop, I would be very wary of still owning Render, because that would mean that people are getting out of the AI narrative. I mean, we don't know. We're going into uncharted territory here. It could grow, but I don't think it's going to grow as much as the hype. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of application in day-to-day life, but massive amounts of this is just hype. You've seen it time and time again before, so just be wary of holding it when this kind of hype is going around, because someone has to be holding the bag and you don't really want it to be you. So where do I see this sort of tailing off in terms of price? I would say we're going to see this at the end of the bull market, and I would say that's around November, December, or January, end of this year, at the start of next year. It's around 8 months after the halving will be the peak of the bull market, as well as I think we'll start to see some of this AI hype start to tail off. I'm not saying we're not going to see these huge developments still, because absolutely we will, but we still have a ways to go in terms of the market cap. So I think it's just best to keep an eye on this. And I think in terms of price target, I would say we still have around at least a 5x from here. So if we hit that $25, I think that's a good exit point. And it's always a chance that you can get back in after this cycle ends, because it's going to drop a lot and then you can come back in as it starts to pick up for the next bull market. Because I think the longer term of Render is massively huge, but I do think we're going to see that peak around November, December, or January. But anyways, if you liked the video, like, subscribe, appreciate it.